Hey all, Diplomat here again with part 3 of the Chris Watts Discovery Readthrough. We're starting here at page 13, and I'm actually going to I'll share the page that I'm on within Adobe, but also the Discovery page because that's different. So this is Discovery page. We look at the bottom here, page 58. So we're here where Chris starts talking about where he was that day and so on. So Chris said he went to location first east of Hudson. He said he was the only one there because of the other operators had an issue there Friday that was left over from the weekend, I guess. He said he went there to verify the issue to see if he could fix it. He said he then went to a pumping unit across the ranch. He advised it was the Survey Ranch near Rogan, Colorado. Chris said he loaded up his water bottles, computer, book bag, container with O-rings into his truck. He advised he had an issue where someone stole tools out of his truck previously. He said he parked his truck near the neighbor's house for a few days to see if someone was trying to break into it again. He said he had left his toolboxes in the back unlocked. He said he unloads his stuff on the weekend to clear his truck out. You'll notice he's very robotic with some of the descriptions he gives. I think in the first part I mentioned that he kind of repeats the same things over and over as they heard and you'll see. But one was obviously listing all the things that he put into his truck. It was very regimented. He did forget the gas can, though. He said they originally moved in with a friend in Broomfield, then their house was built in 2013. He said they don't have many friends in Frederick besides Nikki and some friends that recently moved to Thornton, Nick and Amanda Thayer. That's the couple he stayed with one of those nights and actually slept across the room from their child. There's a YouTube video out there I know of them being interviewed in a park, and it's interesting. It's very, very emotional watch, but I do recommend it. Chris said Shanann's friend Cassie is a nurse and noticed how she had low blood sugar while they were in Arizona. He said before he met Shanann, she had a bad car accident where they believed she blacked out or had a seizure. I left Chris with my business card and told him to have her call us if anyone they know is in contact with her. Throughout the interaction with Chris, he was very cooperative and answered questions appropriately. Nothing was readily observed inside the residence that would indicate a struggle. On August 13th, 2018, at approximately 21:12 hours, I called Chris to see if he had heard anything. He advised he had not, but provided me with the phone number to a few of her friends. They included Addie Maloney, Sam Paisley, Christina Meacham, Jeremy Lindstrom, Cindy Darasette. Glad to see their numbers redacted. Chris advised me. By the way, there's interviews, at least with most of these folks on YouTube that you can listen to. They're very interesting as well. Chris advised me she was in North Carolina for 5 weeks. Then he went for a 6th week. He said there was a disconnect and they fell out of love for each other. He said when they were together again the last week, it just wasn't the same. Chris felt like they weren't in love anymore. Chris said he could never be himself or be who he was before he met her. Yes, that's always going to be true with marriage. Chris said they had the disconnect once he saw her again and that it wasn't there anymore. Chris said it was totally possible she was seeing someone else. Look at that, deflecting what he's doing onto her. He was actually the one seeing someone else. When asked if he was seeing someone else, he slightly lowered his voice and said, "No, I haven't done that. I have not done that." Chris said he was going to work early to see what's going on. He said if his head wasn't there, he would roll out. Chris said he didn't know what he wanted us to do. He said it's hard to be in the house right now. Chris was advised to call us right away if he hears anything. I first spoke to Sam Paisley. She advised she lives in Maryland and knows Shanann through work. The last time Sam spoke with her was July 18th via text. Sam said most of her information was coming from Addie and Cindy, who she was texting with. Sam advised Chris didn't want the baby Shanann was currently pregnant with and that he wanted a separation. Sam advised Chris went to a baseball game on Saturday with his buddies, and Shanann thought his expense for a meal, salmon and beer, was expensive because it was around $60. Sam advised she thought Chris ate at the Rusty Bucket in Westminster around 8 p.m. and arrived 2 hours later. Sam advised Shanann was experiencing nausea with the pregnancy. Sam provided me the contact information of Cindy. So you see, even someone like Sam, who hadn't texted with Shanann since July, she even knew about Chris not wanting the baby, and Shanann, and also about the separation. So it's very interesting, and it's great actually to see this group of girls were very open and transparent with one another, which really helped in this whole situation. I don't know how many friends you guys all have that know this much of detail about what's going on in your life, but it's important people know. Some people, even one, knows what's going on in your life, so that they can you can have people there for you. I then spoke with Jeremy. He advised Shanann has a very scheduled life. He advised the kids did take medication. Chris had brought the girls to his house on Sunday for a birthday party. Jeremy lives in Erie and sees them once every few months. When I called Jeremy, he was just leaving Chris's house with his wife. I then spoke with Cindy. She was in Arizona with Shanann. Cindy lives in Arizona. Her and Addie had dropped Nikki and Shanann off at the airport Sunday evening around 7 p.m. Cindy saw Nikki for the work event Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Cindy advised they work for Lavelle. That's the parent company of Thrive. Cindy advised Shanann, told them that Chris was becoming distant, and said they weren't compatible anymore. Cindy said Shanann was blindsided by this. Cindy said they were making plans to go away for the weekend. She meant that Shanann was planning a trip for, I think, that following weekend as a getaway for her and Chris to reconcile. She mentioned that Chris recently deleted his Facebook account, so that was something odd that he had done prior to the murders. Chris used to post on Facebook how proud he was of Shanann and the kids. Cindy said Shanann was pregnant with a boy, but they had canceled the gender reveal party because the energy wasn't right. Cindy said Chris has recently started to get more fit. Cindy advised Shanann was a very routine-oriented person and described her as a helicopter mom. Cindy described Chris as a passive and calm person. Cindy said Shanann has lupus. She also said Shanann was very distraught about Chris and that he was getting annoyed with her recently. Cindy advised she has known Shanann for a couple of years and saw them in April or May in New Orleans for work. I then spoke with Christina. Christina lives in Hawaii and described herself and Shanann as best friends and have known each other for 14 years. She advised they talk every day. The last they spoke was Friday, and Christina didn't bother her the other days because she was on her trip. Christina advised Chris has been cold towards Shanann recently. While in North Carolina, Shanann called Christina and said he wouldn't touch or kiss her anymore. Shanann told her that Chris didn't want the baby she was pregnant with and that he was scared. He was happy with having only two girls. I can't imagine saying that. Your wife's pregnant with a baby and you're telling her you're just happy with having only 2 girls. What are you suggesting? Awful. Chris told Shanann they weren't compatible anymore. Shanann was in North Carolina without Chris for 5 weeks, then Chris went there the last week. Christina said on Friday Shanann told her she was having a baby boy and was super excited. Shanann said Chris was willing to go into therapy with her and they had planned to go to Aspen. Christina lived with Chris and Shanann last year for 2 months. So Christina flew in from Hawaii to help watch the kids while Shanann had a surgery. So Christina had a really good understanding of what the routine was in the house, right? She lived there for 2 months. You're going to get used to it. And that is all very interesting. So she lived when she had surgery to help take care of the kids. Christina said Shanann was in charge of the household, and they were very loving and caring towards each other. Speaking of Chris and Shanann. Christina said Shanann told her that Chris was tired of not being able to hang a picture on the wall without her input, and he wanted a say. Christina said their marriage began to... let me stop there for a second, because this is very interesting. If you want to have a little bit of insight into what Chris was going through, um, he was going through a lot with being the second in command, and that is very hard for a man. Doesn't excuse anything he did, never will. I'm just calling it as I see it in terms of, if you want a general understanding of what he was going through, that led up to this. He was second in command. He, wanted to say in things. He felt like nothing he did mattered, that kind of thing. So that was interesting going on in Chris's head. Christina said their marriage began to change when Shanann was in North Carolina. Chris began to get aggravated with the kids around him. She said Chris used to put Shanann and the kids first. Chris began to not touch or ask Shanann about the baby. Christina said when they were separated for 5 weeks, Chris came back to Shanann a different man. And if you don't know, you will later, or if you go and watch something else on YouTube, you'll get a feel for what went on during those 5 weeks. He was obviously with his mistress, and so when he went to North Carolina that last week, I mean, that was a week following him being with his mistress almost, every day probably. And so absolutely he's going to go down there to North Carolina as a changed man. He's holding that all inside, and it's a big deal. Christina said Shanann had a routine and was a bit OCD. She advised everything was in order, even what she wore as clothes. Christina described Shanann as very protective of the kids. Christina did believe they struggled a bit financially. Shanann wanted the marriage to work out, but said she couldn't fight for him without his help, which is so true. Christina described the girls as being light sleepers. Because of where the girls slept above the garage of the house, they wouldn't open the garage in the morning. Christina said Chris would usually go out the front door. She said if there was an argument, when she got home, the girls would have woke up. Christina used an example of when she lived with them. They had to leave early one morning, so they had packed the car outside the garage the night before. Shanann was worried just turning on the car would wake the kids. So that just points back to Chris pulling the truck into the garage. Obviously the kids were not in there sleeping. He would have risked waking them up, is what Christina's suggesting here. They even packed that car that one time the night before, so they didn't have to do it in the morning with the kids, so they wouldn't wake them up. Christina advised Shanann would not leave the house without anything. Christina advised it would be hard to imagine Chris hurting the girls because he was very attentive and caring. Christina advised Chris getting aggravated with the kids as well as the marriage all began at the same time. Christina also mentioned Chris had deleted his Facebook page. Finally, Christina describes Shanann as a person who plans everything and says she wouldn't have just left like that. I then spoke with Addie via phone. She was flying back to Maryland from Arizona. Addie advised things were not good between Chris and Shanann. Chris didn't want the baby, and they had canceled the gender reveal party. 2 weeks ago, Shanann was texting with Addie telling her this information. When Addie saw Shanann Sunday night, Shanann looked sad. Shanann said Chris went to the Rockies game with a group of guys. Shanann had been in contact with the babysitter who was watching the girls while he was out. Chris told her he went and got food after and ate salmon and drank beer. He told Shanann it was $62 and she thought it was expensive for him. Addie said while in North Carolina, Chris's mom had exposed their daughter to tree nut allergy, nuts in ice cream, and Shanann and his parents had a falling out over it. Addie said his parents did not go to Cece's birthday party they had for her in North Carolina because of the falling out. Addie said Chris and his father were close and Shanann had left like Chris thought she had caused problems with his dad. That's one repeating thing that you'll see with Chris's family is the things that they didn't go to, all starting back from the engagement party for Chris and Shanann, the wedding. They didn't go to the wedding. And then also here they didn't go to the birthday party. It was a form of maybe punishment or a way of making a statement, that we don't accept you, and we're going to show you that by not attending these very important events. That's my opinion anyway. Addie said Chris had also deleted his Facebook account last Thursday, which is strange because social media is used regularly for her business. Chris told Shanann he needed a break from Facebook. Addie said Chris seemed to come around to the idea of another baby when he found out it was a boy because he wanted a boy. When Addie found out they were having problems, it came as a huge shock to her. She advised Chris told Shanann they didn't communicate well anymore, but wouldn't really say what was wrong with the relationship. Addie said Shanann was anxious to get home because Chris was coming around prior to her going to Arizona. Shanann was also looking forward to getting away with him for the weekend. It's that trip she was planning. Addie believed Nikki was going to watch the kids while they were gone, but wasn't sure. Addie said Shanann was the best mom she knows and wouldn't have left medicine, phone, or car seats. Addie said Shanann was the most organized person and planned everything. So it's really interesting if you just think about, Chris's compliance helps lead to all this. He offers the numbers to all her best friends. He thinks he's doing that to just be compliant and show that he's, caring. And in reality, it's allowing these the police and detectives to get on the phone with those key people and learn of Shanann's routine, and all these things that help them see that that this is not typical of Shanann to just vanish. It's almost like Chris's efforts to show that he's innocent do actually the exact opposite. Very interesting. Addie described Chris as being a great dad. Addie said the only person in Colorado that knew of the marriage problems was Nikki. Most of Shanann's friends are through the business. Addie said Shanann would go on playdates and mentioned Amanda, who used to be the director at the school. A female by the name of Karen they work with was also in Arizona and lives in Colorado, but they didn't discuss Chris with Arizona. I do apologize. Sometimes these are not written as perfect sentences, so it just makes it a little hard to read, but that's all right. We'll get through it. Addie also mentioned Chris told her a neighbor has a security camera that is pointed at their house. For a full account of my conversations with all the friends, please refer to the taser camera footage. Agreed. You can see that on YouTube. It should be noted, I, along with Sergeant Bakes, Officer Goodman, and 2 Dacono officers, looked through the houses under construction in Shanann's neighborhood, but did not locate them, looking for the family. A caller from Sandy, Utah, had observed a Facebook post regarding Shanann. She advised she observed a guy with 2 young girls that looked similar to the missing children at the Dimple Dell Aquatic Center in Sandy, Utah, at approximately 6:05 p.m. The person, I guess, we don't need to go into names, but video and photos were uploaded to evidence.com. No further information. So we'll stop there for this part. Next goes into some written items, as you can see. I'll start that at the next video, but we'll end there with some of the conversations they had with the friends. But you could see as they're contacting these friends, and again, those are on YouTube. They're very interesting to listen to. I highly encourage you to do so. But they all had a very similar perspective, an illustration of Shanann and the kids and the routine. And again, I said the cops already knew. This is just substantiating everything that they already felt they knew. And again, Chris was doomed. He should have just gave in right away. It just made for awkwardness. Everyone knew you were lying, and he just continued to try to hold up this narrative, and it just was a matter of time. And the officers, the investigators, detectives did a great job, an outstanding job in getting his confession. So I hope you enjoyed, and please join me next time for part 4. We'll continue to go in to more information. Some of it, again, is written on notebook paper, as you see, but I'm willing to go through it, and I hope you're interested in listening. So have a great day, and Diplomat will talk to you soon.